The year of 1917 is arguably the most eventful year in World War I. In this year, major powers will both leave and join the war, new doctrines and attacks, and major territorial changes and operations on both sides. In the last year, the Western Front saw battles that would turn into the most deadly battles of the entire war, both ending in stalemates strategically. The Germans, now under the command of Hindenburg and Ludendorff from the Eastern Front, attempted to knock Russia and Britain out of the war. To do this, they tried to cause upheaval within Russia. They kept their attacks up on the Eastern Front, but also introduced a new strategy. The Russian Tsar had taken command of the army earlier in the war, and now was being overthrown back in the capital of St. Petersburg. The Russians had wanted the war to be over, and the Germans offered them a peace treaty that seemed somewhat reasonable for the position Russia was in at the time. There was a provisional government in power that kept the war going on the Eastern Front, but elected to not launch any new attacks or counterattacks, giving the Germans a huge advantage on the battlefield. This pushed the Russians back even more into their own territory, where the Germans would offer them an even more humiliating deal. It was now that the Germans would break Vladimir Lenin, a devout Bolshevik, out of prison in Switzerland and send him to Russia with funding to try and cause more upheaval within the country. This worked, with Lenin gaining power in Russia and immediately pulling Russia officially out of World War I, signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk deal with the Central Powers. This left Germany with only one front to fight, the Western Front, against France. But backing up to the Germans' efforts to knock the British out of the war, they reintroduced unrestricted submarine warfare, leading to many more neutral ships being sunk without warning to the German U-boats. The Germans sunk multiple U.S. ships, which resulted in the United States President Woodrow Wilson officially declaring war on the Central Powers. Germany now knew they had limited time to win, as the USA was the largest industry in the world and had become the largest economy in the world during the duration of the war. They had also not been bogged down by years of endless bloodshed in Europe. In the Middle East, the Ottomans were getting pushed back. They had lost battles in the Arabian Peninsula, modern-day Iraq, as well as Jordan. The British had also signed on Arab tribes to rise up against their Ottoman oppressors, promising them freedom and their own state after the war. These attacks were led by T.E. Lawrence, who would become known as the Lawrence of Arabia. These operations pushed the Ottomans back and destroyed the Ottoman supply routes. The Germans had launched an offensive with Austria-Hungary along the Italian front, which actually pushed the Italians back a number of miles. This was the first and only large movement along the Italian front of the entire war. Greece also joined the war in June of 1917. After nearly fighting a civil war over which side to join, they decided to enter with the Allies and started a front in the Balkans where they met fierce Austrian and Bulgarian resistance. They would soon get Serbian, British, and French aid in terms of reinforcements along that front. That's all the fronts and updates in 1917. We'll see ya in 1918.